Hey guys, giving out more fishing tips, and today I'm talking about the shaky head worm. So the shaky head worm is a great way to catch bass really all year round. Super finesse, and for whatever reason, bass love eating a worm. No matter what the season, no matter what the weather, a bass will likely eat a worm, especially largemouth bass, although you can catch spots and smallmouth on it just fine as well. So what is the shaky head? Pretty much all it's going to be is a light wire finesse hook like that, jig head hook, and then a finesse style worm. And there's going to be two types of worms though. You're always going to be fishing a finesse worm, but you can either use a really stretchy, really durable floating worm like this one, or you can use your traditional salted soft plastic material that just sinks and it's not quite as durable, but a lot of guys like those baits better. The Zoom trick worm is a good example, and it's probably the most popular shaky head worm of all time. Me personally, I prefer the floating style worm. The reason is the material is super durable, super stretchy. You can catch dozens and dozens of fish on this. In fact, I've literally caught probably dozens of bass on just this one worm right here, and it still works just fine. And additionally, I prefer the floating style worm. I just think it gives it a bit more action. I feel like with the worm up in the water, it can draw bass from a little bit farther distance, so I prefer the floating worms, but it's really up to you. They both work just fine. And then when it comes to the jig head design, there's going to be your ball head, your standard ball head, shaky heads like these. Then there's going to be a screw lock jig head, and when deciding between the two, essentially, if you're using those durable, stretchy floating worms, you want to go with the ball head because trying to get those salted plastics up on that lead keeper can often tear the nose and make it really difficult to rig them. But if you're using a traditional salted plastic worm, you want to go with the screw lock because it's really hard to put these stretchy material, TPE material baits onto a screw lock. It's a lot of effort and it's really not worth it. So if you're using the floating style durable worm, go with your ball head shaky heads like this one. And if you're using like the trick worm or just salted plastic style of bait, go with the screw lock because it'll help you get those up on there much easier. Now, what kind of weight are you going to use with these? Obviously, it's a jig head, but what kind of weight should you pick? Pretty much the 1/8 ounce is what I almost always use. The heaviest I'll go is a 3/16 if maybe there's a bit of wind and I need a little bit extra weight, but I like to be as light as I can get away with. I'll always be fishing these in shallow water anyway, so I don't need a lot of weight. And what the lightweight jig head does, it just helps it slowly fall down, glide down really naturally, and I found you get a lot more bites right on that initial fall with a lighter weight jig head, and the 1/8 ounce is just about perfect. Another thing it does is it just forces you to fish these really slowly. If you're using a really light 1/8 ounce jig head, you gotta fish it slow to keep it down on the bottom. And slow is the key. It's a really finesse technique. You do want to fish these as slow as possible. There's almost no way to fish them too slow, but you can definitely fish them too fast. So that lightweight jig head, I feel like it gets you more bites on the fall, and then it forces you to slow it down, really subtly present that bait to the bass, and you're going to get a lot more bites that way. Now, going into a slow, subtle retrieve, how do you work it? Well, pretty much all you're going to do is you're going to cast out, let it sink slowly to the bottom, and then just slowly, with your rod tip up, drag and shake that bait along. You can give it pauses, especially with that floating worm. It'll just float up and wag, even on a slack, paused line. But you're just going to slowly shake and drag that bait back to you. You don't want to be hopping it all over the place. It's a very subtle technique. You want to keep bottom contact as best you can, and it's very slow, very subtle. No matter how pressured the bass are, how tough the bite is, you can usually get them to eat a shaky head. And because this is a very slow technique, when it comes to location, you don't really want to be fishing this in wide open water because it's going to take you all day to reel it in and to fish expansive areas. You're going to kind of pick and choose your locations by fishing it near some docks, near some rocks, near a laydown. You're fishing it on light lines, so you're not going to be flipping it into like the heart of a branch or a laydown or something. You don't have enough power to drag those bass out, but just around the outskirts of cover, some grass, some overhanging branches, those high percentage areas so that you can slowly fish it in a high percentage area. You don't need to cover a ton of water or get reaction bites. So open water is not the best just because it's such a slow technique. But when you're fishing around those docks or those isolated pieces of cover and grass, it's a tremendously high percentage getter. And then lastly, when it comes to the gear that you're going to be fishing this on, you're going to be fishing on just a standard finesse setup. A medium to medium heavy action spinning rod is pretty much perfect. And then I always fish really 100% of the time with my finesse stuff, about 15-pound test braided mainline to an 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. That's really all you need, just a standard finesse setup, nothing special. It's a lightweight finesse bait. You want that lightweight spinning rod, the extra sensitivity, the extra control that you have with that spinning rod and light line. It does make a big difference. And if you've been having trouble catching fish year-round, the Shaky Head is a phenomenal way to get those bites. Alright guys, thanks for watching. This was a Shaky Head breakdown. Get out there, fish it. It's a phenomenal technique.